This would turn out to be a notorious, surreal case with a twist no Hollywood writer could have come up with.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 20 major true crime cases that contain some type of plot twist that dramatically changed the direction of the story.
It would be very simple to confuse the diagnosis of MMA with multiple poisonings because the symptoms are very similar.
BTK catches himself.
And of course, we responded by running an ad in the paper, which he asked us to do, basically telling him we can't trace a floppy disk, which we knew, of course, was inaccurate.
For decades, Wichita, Kansas lived in fear of a phantom. The so-called BTK killer struck at random, murdering at least 10 people between 1974 and 1991 before vanishing off the face of the earth. But then, in 2005, the case now considered cold, investigators received a floppy disk from BTK himself, who arrogantly asked if it could be traced. They lied and said, no, definitely not. It could. The metadata embedded within the disk led police straight to Dennis Rader, a church president and family man who was living in plain sight. The revelation stunned the country. The killer everyone feared wasn't a monster in the shadows, but an everyday family man obsessed with control, undone by a piece of outdated tech.
I need to ask you, how do you like it? How do you like it? Because I was trying to catch you.
Ryan Waller's bizarre interrogation.
So they put him in the back of a police car while they investigated. Now, fire dispatch records indicate a fire unit was sent, but only to determine the female victim was deceased. Mr. Waller says his son sat in the back of a police car with a hole in his face for up to 6 hours.
When police found Ryan Waller with his dead girlfriend in 2006, he was dazed, confused, and covered in blood. Detectives naturally assumed that he was the killer and dragged him in for questioning. Police interrogated Ryan for hours, but found his behavior frustrating. He was mumbling, giving nonsensical answers, seemed on the verge of passing out, and at times wasn't even aware that Heather was dead. Police initially believed it was drugs, or Ryan acting deceptively to cover his guilt. In reality, Ryan had been shot in the head, twice. He and Heather were attacked by 2 intruders, and Ryan survived the shooting with severe brain damage. It was a home invasion, not a domestic murder, and they were speaking with the survivor.
Now we've listed him as a victim. I don't know if anybody knew what happened at that point in time. Now, I'm not going to make any assumptions. There's a number of scenarios that could have happened.
Pamela Smart manipulates a student.
Now, 25 years after her infamous 1990 crime, Pam Smart says prison is worse than she could have imagined.
She looked like the perfect small-town wife, pretty, polished, and heartbroken when her husband Greg was found dead in their New Hampshire condo. But investigators soon learned that her grief was a performance. The truth unraveled fast. Pamela had seduced her 15-year-old student, Billy Flynn, and convinced him and his friends to kill Greg so they could be together. It was a high school love affair turned deadly. The twist flipped the victim narrative on its head, showing that poor Pamela Smart wasn't mourning, she was manipulating. Her case became one of America's first televised trials and became a pop culture sensation, with countless retellings in the form of books, movies, and TV shows.
You ever have any social contact with her?
What do you mean, social? I mean, did you ever go to the soda fountain for a malt? She's my teacher. You saying you wouldn't?
The Casey Anthony verdict.
It was certainly confusing. I mean, we have a child who's been missing for a month, but then we have a mother that essentially everything she's told us at this point has been a lie.
When 2-year-old Kaylee Anthony vanished, her mother Casey spun lie after lie about babysitters, fake jobs, even imaginary people. Investigators found Kaylee's remains near the family home, and the nation watched in complete horror as Casey's bizarre and problematic behavior made headlines. The evidence against Casey seemed overwhelming, both physically and psychologically, and everyone expected a swift conviction. But then, in a stunning verdict, the jury declared her not guilty of murder. The courtroom audibly gasped, and the twist left America divided. Was justice served or denied? Despite everything, Casey literally walked free as protesters called her a baby killer.
Do I necessarily agree with this verdict? No, I don't. I believe it is much more likely than not that this woman was partially at least responsible, either alone or in concert with others, for the death of that beloved child.
Discovering the Manson cult.
Charlie was always preaching that the karma was turning, you know? And it was Blackie's turn to be on top.
But why?
I don't know why, man. That's just what the dude said.
In 1969, Hollywood's glittering hills became a living nightmare. Actress Sharon Tate and 6 others were slaughtered in their own homes, the murders viciously brutal, and the crime scenes grotesque. But the real horror came when police discovered the mastermind, Charles Manson, a failed musician turned local cult leader. As the case unfolded, a bizarre story began to emerge. Manson never held the knife himself, but used charisma and LSD-fueled delusion to command his family of followers to kill, believing that the murders would ignite a race war and bring about the apocalypse. The weird twist redefined evil itself, and if we saw this in a movie, we call it way too far-fetched and silly.
To Manson, helter-skelter meant the black man rising up and destroying the entire white race. That is, with the exception of Charles Manson and his chosen followers.
Robert Durst confesses off camera.
I am going to go use the restroom, which is right here. Or maybe this is the bathroom.
Yeah, that's...
You're right, this is the bathroom.
For decades, millionaire heir Robert Durst danced around suspicion, long accused of killing his wife, a friend, and a neighbor. Then came HBO's seminal The Jinx. Throughout the documentary, Durst appeared calm, evasive, and maybe even innocent. But during the final episode, he went to the bathroom, still wearing his microphone. Off camera, he famously muttered to himself, "What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course." To some, this was a hypothetical, a misunderstanding. To others, it was a chilling confession. Whatever it was enough for police to look deeper into his story, and they uncovered enough evidence to convict him for the murder of Susan Berman. If it wasn't for the filmmakers, this case might never have been solved.
What the hell did I do? Kill them all, of course.
The deaths under Charles Cullen.
Did you get the sense at Somerset, for example, that any of your colleagues, any of the nurses, any of the doctors knew what was going on?
No, I mean, until, the day I was fired, I mean, nobody gave me any indication that anybody was suspicious.
Over a period of 16 years, Charles Cullen worked as a nurse at various New Jersey and Pennsylvania medical centers, and for years, patients under his watch were dying. Of course, this was not surprising, as his patients were often old or seriously ill, so their deaths were not investigated. To pretty much everyone, the deaths were completely natural, only they weren't. In 2003, the Somerset Medical Center finally caught on that something was wrong and contacted investigators. They uncovered a horrifying truth. Cullen had murdered his patients with a cocktail of drugs and framed their deaths as natural causes. It's unclear how many people Cullen killed, but some believe it could be as high as 400.
I would be very surprised, as would pretty much everyone I've spoken to with any knowledge of this case, if it was not in the hundreds, multiple hundreds.
Sherri Rasmussen and the Killer Cop.
It's definitely, pound for pound, one of the greatest true crime stories of all time.
When nurse Sherri Rasmussen was murdered in 1986, police assumed it was a burglary gone wrong. But her husband's ex-girlfriend, Stephanie Lazarus, kept lurking in the background, literally. You see, Lazarus was an LAPD officer, and she was working just down the hall from the homicide division studying Rasmussen's case. The case went cold for 2 decades, until DNA technology became advanced enough to catch up. Detectives ran a new test in the mid-2000s, and the results matched Lazarus. The twist stunned everyone, as the killer had been a cop, hiding behind her badge for years. Evidence also strongly suggests that Lazarus had tampered with the evidence while it was in police custody, successfully masking her involvement in Rasmussen's murder.
By all appearances, a model cop, yet Stephanie Lazarus now faces murder charges. Prosecutors say that almost 25 years ago, she beat and shot the wife of an ex-boyfriend, and that DNA evidence proves it.
The camera in the washing machine.
Travis Alexander, 44 seconds later, probably still sitting or seated in the shower. Right hand on the camera to shoot the picture, accidentally or inadvertently, which is what everyone believes. That leaves her left hand free. Could she have had the knife in her hand at that moment?
When Travis Alexander was found dead in his Arizona home, having been attacked in the shower, suspicion quickly turned to his ex-girlfriend, Jodi Arias. Arias admitted to killing Alexander, but claimed self-defense. But then detectives combing the house made a shocking discovery: a digital camera placed in the washing machine. Against all odds, the memory card was salvaged, and on it were photos of Alexander in the shower. The pictures were taken by Arias and were particularly graphic, showcasing the bloody aftermath of the attack. The twist was photographic proof of guilt. The crime literally documented for all to see. Arias' self-defense claim completely fell apart, and she was sentenced to life in prison.
He steps halfway out, soaking wet, picks her up, and body slams her, boom, on the tile floor. But Vinny, She said during testimony that her head was facing that way, but if you're going to body slam somebody, look which way the head's facing. That's another reason why her story doesn't make sense.
Chris Watts.
Throw anything out there, like, I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. But, I mean, because she just taken off, I don't know. But if somebody has her and they're not safe, like, I want them back now.
When Shannon Watts and her 2 children went missing, devoted husband Chris Watts appeared on the news, pleading for their return. But for many, his behavior on the TV seemed off. He didn't seem especially distraught, and it seemed like he was hiding something. Investigators agreed and noticed that his story didn't add up. He was brought in for questioning, and after failing a polygraph, Watts broke down and confessed. He told police that he had strangled his wife and smothered their daughters before hiding their bodies at his remote job site. Behind the friendly face on TV was something hollow, a man who destroyed everything he'd ever built, revealing the truth that evil can wear a family man's smile.
They're gone. There's no bringing them back. Where are they?
Peter Porco's bizarre morning.
Apparently, sometime after the attack, Peter regained consciousness and started to go about his morning tasks.
When court clerk Peter Porco woke up on November 15, 2004, he immediately began going about his routine, just as he did every morning. He went to the bathroom, packed his lunch, loaded the dishwasher, and went to get the newspaper. But soon, he began to feel faint, collapsed in the hallway, and died. When police arrived later, they found a grisly scene, with Peter leaving a massive trail of blood everywhere he went. You see, earlier that morning, both Peter and his wife Joan had been bludgeoned with an axe by their son, Christopher, who attacked them as they slept. Peter somehow survived his horrific injuries and went about his daily routine, all while bleeding profusely from his grotesque head wounds.
The autopsy revealed his paleocortex underneath was intact. This controls his primal instincts and second nature habits.
Brian Wells and the Inheritance Plot.
The man told police that the bomb had been strapped to his body and that he was forced to rob the bank.
In 2003, pizza delivery man Brian Wells of Erie, Pennsylvania, walked into a local PNC bank with a bomb strapped around his neck. He took $8,700 in cash and fled. Moments later, with police surrounding a cross-legged Wells, the device detonated. Police later traced the dead bank robber to a complex conspiracy. Wells had delivered a pizza to a remote location and was taken in by Marjorie Deal Armstrong, who wished to earn enough money to hire a hitman to murder her father for the inheritance. She and accomplices fit Wells with the bomb collar and had him rob the bank, hoping to get $250,000. Deal Armstrong was arrested after the bizarre plot was uncovered, and she died in prison in 2017.
There is nothing normal about Marjorie Deal Armstrong. She's mentally ill, but she's also smart and cunning. Able to get the men in her life, even the one who said she broke his heart, to do anything for her.
Arresting Timothy McVeigh.
Less than 90 minutes after the blast, about 75 miles north of Oklahoma City, State Trooper Charlie Hanger stops a 1977 Mercury Marquis for not having a license plate.
On the morning of April 19, 1995, a bomb exploded under the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, killing a known 167 people and injuring hundreds more. But the man responsible wasn't caught through a complex intelligence networks. He was caught by a small-town highway patrol officer. Just 90 minutes after the bombing, McVeigh was pulled over by Oklahoma State Trooper Charlie Hanger for driving without a license plate, and he was arrested for carrying an unregistered gun. At the time, Hanger had no idea that he had just arrested the most wanted man in America. The FBI identified McVeigh 2 days later and found that he was in the Noble County Jail. They took him into federal custody, and the rest is history.
Hanger arrests McVeigh for carrying a concealed weapon, never imagining that his prisoner is the Oklahoma City bomber.
Samantha Koenig is already dead.
The police interrogation is in Anchorage, Alaska, where Keyes was being held for the murder of 18-year-old barista Samantha Koenig, seen here putting her hands up the very moment a masked Keyes pulls a gun on her.
After 18-year-old barista Samantha Koenig vanished from her Anchorage coffee stand, her abductor took a ransom photo showing her alive and holding a newspaper. Hope briefly returned for Koenig's family, and a ransom was paid for her safe return. Unfortunately, that hope was only a false hope. The image was staged. Samantha was already dead. Her killer, Israel Keyes, had murdered her days earlier, then propped up her body and posed it for the photo to make it look like proof of life. The twist was monstrous. It wasn't just about money, but power. If it was any consolation to Koenig's father, the ransom money was instrumental in capturing Keyes, and he was arrested in March 2012.
Telling police he killed her, then left to take a cruise out of New Orleans before asking her family for ransom.
The Theranos scandal.
And you have a new idea, you don't listen to a single person who tells you that you can't do it.
With her black turtlenecks, fake deep voice, and Steve Jobs-style vision, Elizabeth Holmes promised to revolutionize medicine. Her company, Theranos, claimed to test hundreds of diseases with just a drop of blood, a miracle of modern science that would have revolutionized the practice of blood testing forever. Investors, politicians, and the media called her the next tech genius. But the story came crashing down with a shocking twist. None of it worked. The machines gave false results, and Holmes had faked the data all along to sell machines. The empire she built on innovation was actually built on nothing but lies. Theranos collapsed, and Holmes was sentenced to 11 years in prison.
Tonight, the epic rise and downfall of disgraced Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes has come to an end. The former CEO reported to a federal prison today for defrauding investors out of hundreds of millions of dollars.
The Golden State Killer is finally caught.
He was committing the crimes during the time he was employed as a peace officer, and obviously we'll be looking into whether it was actually on the job.
For decades, the Golden State Killer haunted California, breaking into homes, assaulting women, and murdering couples, and then vanishing into the night. By 1986, when he suddenly and mysteriously stopped, he had amassed a body count of at least 13. All were considered cold cases, but in 2018, technology finally caught up. Investigators uploaded crime scene DNA into a public genealogy site and identified the killer as Joseph James D'Angelo. The twist? He was a former police officer, and he was on active duty during a bulk of his crime spree. The man sworn to protect had been the predator all along. After over 40 years of terror, science and persistence revealed the face behind the mask, and that face had been wearing a badge.
D'Angelo was arrested in Sacramento overnight. It's believed the crimes were being committed while D'Angelo was a police officer at 2 California police departments. Investigators say discarded DNA evidence led to the capture.
The Dear Zachary case.
Really a good storyteller. He was completely selfless.
Animated. Kind.
Jubilant.
Caring.
Devilish.
Laid back.
Very approachable.
Can I say things that are not like completely flattering and wonderful?
When filmmaker Kurt Kenny set out to document the life of his murdered best friend, Andrew Bagby, he wanted to make a beautiful memento for Andrew's unborn son, Zachary. But Kenny couldn't predict that he was actually documenting one of the most horrifying true crimes in recent memory, and in real time too. During filming, Zachary's mother, Shirley Turner, took her own life, and the life of young Zachary by jumping into the ocean. The twist upended the documentary and turned it into something no one expected, a memorial, not a memento. What began as a love letter became a eulogy, and Dear Zachary became notorious as one of the saddest documentaries ever made.
Your grandma and grandpa went back to England and spread your ashes with your dad's. They went back to St. Louis and spread your ashes with your dad's.
Patricia and Ryan Stallings.
July 9th, 1989, St. Louis, Missouri. A young mother rushed her critically ill son to Cardinal Glennon Hospital.
When baby Ryan Stallings suddenly fell ill in 1989, doctors discovered that his blood contained antifreeze poisoning. Unfortunately, Ryan didn't make it, and his mother, Patricia, was arrested for his murder. She insisted she was innocent, but the evidence seemed clear. After her case appeared on Unsolved Mysteries, a push was made to test Ryan's blood more thoroughly, and he was found to be suffering from a rare disease called methylmalonic acidemia. The thing is, MMA mimics the results of antifreeze poisoning in blood tests. Patricia hadn't poisoned her son, his body had simply mimicked the signs of it. The major twist was earth-shattering, and it was enough to free Patricia from prison. She later received a substantial reward for her troubles.
Unfortunately, we can't undo the suffering that the Stallings have endured during this entire ordeal. And I apologize to them both personally and for the state of Missouri.
Frédéric Bourdon and the Missing Boy.
She didn't even wait a second or 2 seconds. She jumped on me. She took me in her arms and she said, "Nicholas, oh, and you were afraid I wouldn't recognize you. I would remember that nose."
In 1997, a missing Texas teenager named Nicholas Barkley was miraculously found in Spain, noticeably older and thinner, but alive. But those weren't the only changes. The boy suddenly had a French accent. His eyes were an entirely different color, brown instead of blue. His story made absolutely no sense. Despite these curious changes, his family rejoiced in his survival and accepted him without question. Of course, the major twist revealed what everyone was already thinking. This wasn't Nicholas at all, but Frédéric Bourdon, a 23-year-old French con artist who was known for impersonating children in order to find family. It's pretty sad when you think about it. Bourdon served 6 years in prison, and unfortunately, the real Nicholas Barkley has never been found.
I could go to the US, go to school there, live with that family, and just being someone, and don't have never again to worry about being identified. I saw the opportunity.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
OJ Simpson is found not guilty.
It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
The United States basically stopped for the trial of the century. Former NFL star OJ Simpson was accused of murdering his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman, and for many, the trial was considered a foregone conclusion. The evidence against Simpson was simply too overwhelming, including his blood and glove at the scene, the victim's blood in his truck, and his DNA matching him to the crime. But DNA was a new and somewhat misunderstood thing at the time, and America was in the midst of enormous racial tensions. For these reasons, and probably many more, Simpson was found not guilty. The shocking twist echoed across America, causing intense outrage and changing how the country viewed its own justice system.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information.
Did you see these twists coming? Let us know in the comments below.